The citizens of Lower Bucks County, well informed on public issues.
The Bolton Farm, once the home of the Pemberton and Morris families, is in near ruins today. Located in the Holly Hill section of Levittown, it's hard to imagine that this 200-year-old structure was once the elegant home of many of our county, state, and national leaders. Today, the Bucks County Conservancy and the Friends of Bolton Mansion are trying to restore and preserve this mansion. Recently, County Commissioner Mike Fitzpatrick and Jim Snow, president of the Friends of Bolton Mansion, joined Senator Tomlinson in a visit to this historic site. Architecturally, the Bolton Mansion spans 2 centuries of development, incorporating many style changes. Jim explains.
Now, it started out as just a very small one-room with a crawl space building. But as the family grew in wealth and stature and requirements, they added on to the building. So you have a building that stands today as an example of different types of architecture as the family grew larger and more prominent in the new colony.
Well, why don't we take a walk through and go up and look at some of that? Mike, as County Commissioner of Bucks County and as someone from the lower area, what importance does Bolton Mansion hold for the people in the Bristol Township and all of Lower Bucks County?
Tommy, it's a very historically significant property. We know that this property was developed, I guess, as a very large farm. Actually, there were 3 farms here originally in what was to become Levittown in the 1950s. In about 1975, was it, Jim? The Friends of Bolton Mansion.
That's correct.
Came to take a look at this property and its historical significance and began working with the Heritage Conservancy, which also has a relationship with the county government here in Bucks County. So given the historical significance of this property, we believe it's very important not only to the people of Levittown and Lower Bucks County, but to the people of Bucks County generally, that we do preserve the piece of property that we're going to go in and take a look at.
It is probably one of the most significant historical landmarks that we do have in Bristol Township. And as we look around on the other side of the street, we see a school, and we actually are in a section of Levittown here.
That's right. We're in the Holly, I guess right between the Holly Hill section and I guess that's Red Cedar Hill, or Apple Tree. The Apple Tree section.
There, yes.
This was a couple of sections of Levittown built on, Jim, I believe it was 3 farms that made up was it the Bolton Farm, the Fairview, and Westview farms.
That's correct.
That Levitt came in and acquired in the early 1950s and essentially built Levittown right around this very historically significant structure.
Jim, is it true, did Levitt give this ground to the township and the township use it? Wasn't this at one time a municipal building, or was it used by the township supervisors?
Yes, that's correct. After Levittown was built, Levitt deeded the property over to the township for their use as a municipal building, police station, and the rescue squad used what we call the tenant building or head farmers residence. The rescue squad used that over the years.
Well, let's turn around and let's take a walk up and actually try and look and see what inside of Bolton Mansion looks like. I think the significant thing today that we're going to see is they're actually in the middle of renovation. So we're going to see what they're actually doing to restore Bolton Mansion to its original condition. Jim has brought us into the oldest section of the house. Jim, what year would this room been established, and give us a little bit of history about the room we're standing in at this moment.
Okay, Tommy, this is the very first part of the building that the family resided in after they left Grove Place, which was across from Biles Island near the Delaware. It goes back to the mid-1690s. It was a room and a crawl space, so the whole family had to fit in this one room, sleep, eat, do everything in this one room. There are 2 doors which are opposite each other, and this is the way they used to transport their wood and their ice through the building and deliver it, unload it right in from the one door and then go out the other door.
About what year then did they add on the next room behind us?
The next room that we'll be entering was added on in the 1730s. So as the family grew larger and a little bit more prominent in the area, they started to add on to the building.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a walk in and show the folks the other room.
Okay, now this is the room that was added on in the 1730s. As you notice, there's another walk-in fireplace. The kitchen changed from the original room into this room, so they could use the other room for other uses.
Now the women, you know, just worked right in these fireplaces. They had the fires going all day long, and they cooked here. And of course, it provided the heat, and so I get, you know, these fireplaces seem to be central to both of these rooms.
They did their heating in the fireplaces. They also had ovens in the fireplaces. You'll see by looking into the fireplace there are wooden doors. At first, they had just the one wooden door as an oven, and then as their uses became greater, they added another oven.
It was interesting to me when I toured on Bolton Mansion Day to find out that the second leading cause of death for women was actually infection from the fire. The women wore those full skirts back in colonial days and would oftentimes brush up against the fire, and the dress would catch on fire. And even though they put it out, they didn't have modern medicine, and the women would die several weeks later from the infection, something that today we wouldn't even think that would be of major concern, but from the open wound of the fire, from the burns, the women eventually died, and that to me struck me as how harsh things were really in these colonial times.
Next, the Senator and Jim visited the bake oven area.
We're now out in the area where they built the brick oven, and describe to us how this actually operated.
Okay, this is called a beehive bake oven. It's called a beehive bake oven because if you stick your head inside, it looks just like a beehive on the inside. It's a type of oven that they would build the fire right in the oven itself, get the fire brick hot enough that it would retain heat for the period of time that they would be baking or doing their cooking. Then they would rake the coals into a front slot behind the door of the oven, where below is a bin which stores the ashes. Then they would do the baking right in that oven for the period of time that the fire brick would remain hot enough. The area in front of the beehive oven is the kettle area, or the basin area, which I had mentioned a little previously, where the dyeing of the clothes, the washing of the clothes. They most likely had a brass kettle where they would also cook their soups and stews. This particular area is fired from beneath. You would put the wood underneath this kettle and make it hot enough so that would retain the heat. Both the bake oven and the kettle area is served by the same chimney, which also serves the fireplace in the opposite room, or the next room.
All right, as the family then progressed, they built onto the front of this. Why don't we take a walk now out front and show the people, and you can give a little bit of history of the family and how they developed.
Okay.
Jim, could you explain to us where we are now? We've just stepped out of the old colonial part, and what part of the building are we actually in now?
Okay, we have now entered the breezeway. We've entered the part of the building that the famous Morris family, which married into the Pemberton family back in the 1790s, they started this portion of the building. They added on to the old existing colonial section of the building, which shows your small rooms, your low ceilings and small windows, into an area which has the Federalist Georgian type of architecture typical of that period of time. It was Anthony Morris who married Mary Pemberton in 1790, and from that point forward up until the 1930s, it was in the hands of the Morris family. Now, Anthony Morris is probably the most significant of the Morris members to live here. He was an ambassador to Spain under James Madison. He's credited with the negotiations for the purchase of Florida for the United States. Other members of his family were very prominent members, and the last member of the family to own the property was Effingham Morris, who inherited the property in the late 1800s and made massive improvements to the grounds as well as the building itself. He raised the front of the building to make it a square building. At the time, before that, it was a wood clapboard building. He went over to Somerset, which is the home of 3 of our signers of our Declaration of Independence, and brought wagon loads of stone over here, and stone encased the whole front of the building over that old wood clapboard building.
So this home here was one of the most prominent homes apparently in the area. A lot of dignitaries were here. A lot of important conversations took place in probably some of these rooms. Right now we can see, as our viewers can see, you're in the middle of major renovations. You've absolutely stripped the walls down and you're going back and you're trying to replace this back to its original condition then?
Yes, we are. We, under regulations for the historical department out of Washington, to restore this as close to its original structure as possible, bearing in mind that we must use this building to maintain the property through its use.
Also in the works to be restored is the old library and the spiral staircase off the center hall. As Senator Tomlinson completed his tour, he thanked Jim.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you very much for bringing us through. I thought it was important for our viewers to see actually how hard and how difficult it is to restore an important historical place like Bolton Mansion back to its original condition. It's not easy, and you have a lot of work to do ahead of you, and we look forward to coming back and filming this when you've accomplished that, particularly this center hallway, this center stairway, because as you said before, this is a great example of older architecture that we must preserve and we must have so that our children today and the people today can appreciate how this country was founded and where we really come from. And Jim, I want to thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Senator Tomlinson spoke to Mike Fitzpatrick on the grounds of the Bolton Mansion about its significance to the region.
Mike, we're standing out here in the back of Bolton Mansion amongst trees that were here in the 1680s and the 1690s, and they're magnificent, huge trees, and with a beautiful picture of the mansion behind us. For Bristol Township, for this lower end, this area, what is the importance, what is the significance of maintaining and keeping a site like this for the community?
Tommy, the importance to Bristol Township and Levittown generally is it's significant. It's really magnificent to have a building like this amongst the homes and the schools where our children attend classes and play every day. It's high time that we have to take these structures, maintain them, restore them, and not just restore them so that they're here for future generations, which is important, but make sure that we bring our children back here and point out to them the fact that two of the most prominent families, not only in Bucks County history, but in our nation's history, the Pembertons and the Morrises, lived here. And that Anthony Morris, our children should know that Anthony Morris, whose initials are up in the gable of the house, AM 1790, that he was an ambassador to the court of Spain, and he put together the deal that made Florida part of the United States. The children here in Levittown and Bucks County need to know that, and need to know that Anthony Morris and his predecessors lived here in Levittown.
That actually history is alive right around their neighborhoods, right here where the children can come out and see that. And Mike, what do you see the future of, it's expensive, and we just took a tour with Jim, and the Friends of Bolton Mansion and Jim Snow have done a great job, and they're volunteers, they're trying to raise money. What do you see as the future for trying to maintain something that's so expensive to do, plus keep the operations going?
I think the future is bright in that regard. Jim Snow and the Friends of Bolton Mansion, the Heritage Conservancy, have already made a significant effort and investment in this property. And for that reason, among many others, we have to continue to make the investment not only from the governmental side, but also from the private side. I know the Grundy Foundation has an investment in this property. A lot of people have made significant financial investments and labor investments in this property, and we need to continue it, and it will continue.
Well, we know that how tight tax money is, and we know how difficult it is, and most of this is volunteer money and fund money. But Jim and the Historical Conservancy have now made it possible to rent the upstairs of this. Do you see that this is the future for historical preservation? Is we've got to get partnerships with private individuals, partnerships with people who can actually help these places support themselves?
Absolutely. We need to demonstrate to the taxpayers of this county and your district that they're not going to be subsidizing absolutely structures such as these, although that's important that we do make a contribution, but that through the application of commercial uses of the property, which are sensitive to the desires and needs of this neighborhood, that can help us to preserve this piece of history right here in Bristol Township.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you for taking the time today as County Commissioner in Bucks County to come out and share with our viewers the importance and the historical significance of having living history right here in Bristol Township. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Senator.